We all went to school, but what if I told you that the most important education you'll ever get doesn't happen in a classroom? It happens right inside of you. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this powerful, invisible inner school that's running in the background, shaping everything about who you are and who you're becoming. This quote from Henry Ward Beecher, man, it just nails it. It gets to the heart of what we're talking about. Our first education isn't about reading and writing. It's emotional. It's the atmosphere we grew up in. That atmosphere is what installed our deepest, most fundamental lessons about what we're capable of, whether we're worthy, and just how big we're allowed to dream.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to really define the school inside you. Then we'll get into how your focus literally creates your reality. After that, we'll talk about tuning into your genuine voice, why just believing isn't enough, you need a strategy, and finally, we'll see how all of this comes together to build a legacy one day at a time.
So let's dive right in. It's time to uncover the curriculum that's been secretly running your life. Seriously, think about it. What are the unwritten rules your inner school taught you? And maybe more importantly, are they still working for you today? So when we say the school within, this is what we mean. It's not a place, it's an environment. It's that foundational, emotional, and spiritual space that installed our core beliefs way before we even had the tools to question them. You could almost think of it as the original operating system for how you see yourself and the entire world. Now, let's get to what might be the single most important lesson from our inner school. It's about the incredible, almost magical power of focus. And the principle is so simple. Where you look is where you go. This story from baseball history is just the perfect illustration. So picture Ralph Branca is on the mound in one of the biggest moments of his career. A teammate comes over and says, "Whatever you do, don't throw it up and in." So what happens? The one thing he was told not to do became the focus. He essentially programmed his own mind to fail, and he threw the exact pitch he was trying to avoid, game-losing home run. And here's the critical difference, right? When Branca focused on the obstacle, don't throw it up and in, that obstacle basically took the steering wheel. But imagine if his focus had been on the goal, throw a low strike. See the difference? All his energy, all his skill would have naturally organized around that positive outcome instead. The legendary coach Tony Dungy just wraps this whole idea up perfectly. And listen, this isn't some kind of feel-good, magical thinking. This is literally neurology. It's how our brains are wired. The things we hold most vividly in our minds, whether they're our biggest fears or our greatest goals, are what we subconsciously move toward. Our attention carves the path. And you see this pattern everywhere. Take the golfer Tom Kite. People constantly told him he was too small to be a top player. But he just refused to let their limited vision become his reality. Or think about the ultimate underdog story, David and Goliath. David didn't see an unbeatable monster. No. He reframed the whole situation. He saw a big target that his faith and his skill had prepared him to hit. Okay, so if focus is that powerful, it leads to a really important question. What are we supposed to focus on? And this brings us to the next big challenge. Learning to tune out all the noise so we can finally find our own truth. The theologian Howard Thurman had this beautiful concept he called the sound of the genuine. He believed that there is an authentic, true voice already flowing through every single one of us. It's not something we have to invent or create. It's something we have to get quiet enough to actually hear. So let's make this real for you right now. This is a question that's worth sitting with for a minute. Where in your life have you been listening to your parents, your boss, your friends, everyone except yourself? And if you just got really quiet, what's the truth that deep down you already know? Okay, so hearing that inner voice, believing in it, that's huge. And this is a big but, it's only step one. Belief is absolutely essential, but it's not enough by itself. You have to move from just wishing to actually doing the work. Here's a great way to think about it. Belief is the fuel. It's the gas in the tank. It's what animates our effort and gives us the energy to even start the engine. But strategy, that's the steering wheel. That's what directs all that energy and makes sure you're heading in the right direction. You gotta have both. Let's go back to David again. He didn't just wander onto the battlefield with blind faith and hope for the best. No way. He had a strategy. He turned down the king's fancy armor because he knew it wasn't right for him. He chose his own tool, the sling he'd mastered, and he picked his angle. His belief was backed up by a super practical, smart strategy. And this is where it all comes together. We take the lessons from our inner school, we find our genuine belief, we apply a smart strategy, and we start building a legacy, not in one big flashy moment, but through the daily accumulation of our actions. But as you start to build, you're going to run into traps. One of the sneakiest is what the author Robert Greene calls tailored flattery. This is a really subtle kind of manipulation where someone figures out what you value and then mirrors it back to you. Not because they agree with you, but because they want to exploit your need for approval and get you off your game. And this slide just lays out the danger zone so clearly. On one side, you have the leader who needs validation. Their self-image depends on the mirror other people hold up to them. Super easy to manipulate. But then you have the grounded leader. They're guided by that inner compass, that sound of the genuine, and they are so much harder to knock off course. So, how do you become that grounded person? Well, we tend to look for the big overnight success story. But this quote tells the real truth. Dramatic change doesn't come from one big act. It comes from an accumulation. It's the small things you do every day, adding and just continuing. That's the real magic. You know, that game-winning shot, that breakthrough idea, that is never the whole story. It's just the tip of the iceberg. What you don't see are the thousands of tiny decisions, the quiet hours of practice, and the simple act of being faithful to your goal when absolutely nobody is watching. That's where the victory is really won. And in the end, everything comes back to this one foundational principle of focus. This isn't just an old religious idea. It's a profound psychological truth. Whatever you put at the center of your life, whether it's a fear, what other people think, or your own genuine purpose, that thing becomes the organizing principle for everything else. It directs your attention, and your attention directs your life. So look, the bell never dismisses you from this school. It's always in session. Your life is the curriculum, and the choices you make every day are the homework. So the only question left is the one you have to answer for yourself. Every single morning, your inner school is open. What will you learn today?